righty, so we are back. But before we continue our conversation, we just want to say hi, Crystal. All right, so for persons listening and wondering, how come, where is Crystal? She'll be back with us next week. All right, so you're stuck with Ari and I. We're hoping that
I hope they don't
it's
see it
not
that
a
way.
stuck
Yes, I
with
hope they
us.
don't see it that way.
But no, Crystal hasn't abandoned any of you, but she'll be back with us next week. All right, so
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, we have had an series of interesting
I
conversations.
want to see the WhatsApps. I want to see the WhatsApp messages because one of them,
Mhm,
yeah, one was it Miss Martin?
mhm.
No, it was Trevor.
Okay, uh-huh. What
Trevor's
about Trevor's comment?
Trevor said, "Are you preparing
I
developing robots or people? School uniforms attempt to unify everyone on the impression that we are all operated or learn the same. Sadly, children are not given the opportunity for self expression, therefore, developing their own individual personality." You know what I would say on that, Trevor? I lived in Taiwan for a number of years. And what I've seen in Taiwan, if we keep following this colonial system where no one has their own identity, where it's robots. We're raising robots.
but
There's no free thinking.
but why would you say that though? Because there are organizations, institutions here who have uniforms.
Mhm.
There are employees who have a standard
The
uniform.
the issue isn't
So
in uniform, you know.
what is the issue? But
Self-expression. May I wear my hair how I feel like it? May I
uh-huh.
carry myself? Yes, I am wearing the uniform. I'm following the guidelines as it relates to wearing the uniform.
Mhm.
Wear black shoes. Your uniform is this. Wear your blazer. Wear your uniform following the rules. But when you're telling me I cannot wear braids, I cannot have locks, I must keep my locks covered, my
Mhm.
hair must be cut to 1 inch, then
Mhm.
you're stifling my self-expression. Now, the personal story. When I was in St. Vincent Grammar School, I wanted to grow locks. I was told that I need a letter from the Rastafarian community or whatever is my church or what would you say, denomination, whatever it is. I needed a letter from them proving that I am a Rastafarian in order to wear locks to school or start locks while in school. After graduating from grammar school, I started in community college where the rules aren't that strict.
Mhm.
I have 10 years of locks currently. So you cannot say it was a phase. It can be a phase for some people, but
Mhm.
it's not up to you to make that distinction. And it is all our hair.
Mhm.
And I feel like if we keep following these colonial rules, it is, as Trevor said, stifling our self
Yeah, but yes,
expression.
yeah, but okay. So your aspect or your use of the term colonial rules. You're just making that in reference to carrying locks. Is it just
No, not
locks?
just in carrying
Because
locks, in most of
it
the hair
can't.
rules that they have.
Uh,
No.
because remember too, we're looking at the whole issue of deportment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea of self-expression is also viewed in the way in which you dress,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the world school is a preparation, or is supposed to be a preparation for the world of work, right?
Okay.
So if you're saying that for boys, your pants are supposed to be loose at the foot, it's not supposed to be fitted. Um, and the boys kick up against that. But when you go to a particular workplace and they have a standardized uniform, are you going to say that you are being stifled when you're supposed to be following the rules? All right, so we have a caller here. Let's hear from this person. I just missed it. So call if you can call back. We'd appreciate it. Right. So I don't necessarily always think that it's a case of stifling expression, but I think school is the training ground for when persons get into that field of work.
Listen, but we have seen people over the years, although they have a uniform, they tailor their uniform for their own comfort. That does not in any way affect the rules.
Or you
No,
mean their productivity? You
no,
mean?
the rules, the
Uh-huh.
rules.
Okay.
And that's one example. If I remember the grammar school rules correctly, it's you wear your shoes must be black or brown, you wear grey pants, you keep your tie or crest on. If I'm making my pants closer or looser,
Mhm.
or more loose, why did I say looser? Or more loose,
Mhm.
I'm still complying with the school rules. I'm still carrying myself as a grammar school boy. I don't see how something like as trivial as that affects the my general what's the word deportment.
Mhm.
Now, if it is that I decide, and we've seen it over the years, boys decide I'm not wearing my blazer or I don't need my tie, and I use in grammar school as reference because that's what I know.
Mhm.
I don't need my crest. Then you're affecting the school rules. Then you're impacting your deportment.
Mhm.
But that's my opinion on it. I see Trevor was still saying something.
All
I
right,
don't know
so
if he added a point.
we have a comment here from Nichols. Some of them do not want to dress in their school clothes because when you think they're in school, they all right, they're not going to school. All right,
Yeah, but that's a whole
yeah,
different
that's a different.
conversation.
That's in
And
relation
you
to
know, they had that
truancy.
argument when they changed from the community college uniform,
Mm.
from the green and
Oh,
blouse,
right.
and then they we switched
T-shirts.
to the polos and
Mhm.
jeans. They say, why would you have the students in polos and jeans? They
Mhm.
would just stop going to school and go to the beach.
Yeah.
It's been the case for years now.
Mm.
Have they stopped going to school?
Mm.
Have they stopped going to school?
Yeah.
No. I mean, they would have the one or two instances,
Right. Yeah. You'd
but
have to. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'm not sure if there is a yes or no to this particular debate because
it,
persons would have varying opinions. You
yeah,
know, there are
it's a
those
slippery
who,
slope.
yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's a slippery slope where if you give, as we say, a blight to one
Hmm.
part of the rule, then where would it end? Where does it stop? But if you know upon entering a school that these are the rules, why not adhere to them? Or why not, let's say, challenge them at
Hmm.
that particular instance? Why wait till after to then say, I have an issue with it?
Yeah. That
Right.
okay, I could see that point.
Right. All right. So let's see if we have any more comments on this topic. It does not appear so. So yes, we're on to the topic of we're just talking about education on a whole. So there was another article that I came across on Searchlight.
Hmm.
And but if and before we continue, if anyone has any points to make in relation to anything that we previously discussed, then you can feel free to comment. That's okay, even though we're moving on to a different topic. All right. So there's a topic here on Searchlight
Hmm.
where Minister King, the education minister, said there's urgent changes needed to SVG's education system. So I just read certain parts of it. The education system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines needs some revamping in order to make it more responsive to the developmental needs of the country. And while some local educators believe that some issues have been dealt with, more work needs to be done, including a focus on technical vocational education and training, TVET. Minister of Education Curtis King, speaking last Sunday during WEFM's It's Your Time program, said local educators have come to the conclusion that when they look at the data,
Hmm.
that there are still some things to be done with respect to access and equity, but feel sufficiently confident that we have dealt fairly well with some of the contemporary issues. He said, and what we need today is to recognize the new society that we are now living in and accept that the education system, which was basically formulated to deal with past society, the old society, it is no longer, let us say, totally relevant to the developmental needs that we have identified that would transform our society and enhance persons' living standard, King said. All right, so there's another part here that I want to read. He said, And all basically have come to the conclusion that the education system we have, it especially in the English-speaking Caribbean, it is too based on the traditional grammar school model that we utilized in, or that was utilized in England, with a heavy emphasis, and I'm going to repeat it, with a heavy emphasis, because you understand where it is I'm going to be coming from now, right? With a heavy emphasis on academic training, and that there is, in fact, a weakness where skills are concerned. Right. And to just wrap up that part of it, he education system has come under a microscope because of the criticisms that there is there's a great mismatch between what is happening in school and the world of work. He said many persons think that what is happening in the classroom is leading to difficulties when students transition into the world of work. Right. Yeah. So that's the what the content of what that article is about. And I am in total agreement with Minister King's view here. For years, I've had the opinion that we are too heavily focused on quantity of subjects as opposed to quality of subjects that can transition into the world of work or transition into a profession that we can engage in the future. There are many persons who, and it baffles me. Now, people have different opinions on this, but one of the crazy things that we see coming out when CXC results are released are the amount of subjects that students are doing. You're telling me that a student is sitting 20 subjects, 26 subjects, whatever the crazy amount is. And I'm asking the question, why? Why are students sitting so many subjects? What are they going to be doing with these subjects after? How are they going to be using these subjects? Is it necessary to do these amounts of subjects, right? On one hand, you can say that maybe they're trying to test their abilities. I've also seen, especially in the case of Guyana, because we see a lot of these students coming out of Guyana, is that one of the reasons persons have said why they do it is because they're trying to compete for scholarships. Now, I have to question the quality of life that these children would have lived just before setting these exams. Because to sit so many subjects, it makes me wonder, did you actually have spare time? Because these subjects have SPAs also attached to them. It's a crazy amount of work that these students would have had to put in. And is it necessary to be doing that many subjects? Now, I'm not going to say that they need to necessarily settle to do 5 subjects, because that, I think, is the qualifications needed is it to enter UE or to enter E-level? I'm not sure which one it is, right? But you don't need a significant amount.
It's 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah.
It's 5? Maybe it's 5.
You don't need a significant amount of subjects entered. Now, I'm not saying that any student should necessarily settle for just doing 5, but if it's what they can manage and they're guaranteed or think that more than likely they can get all ones in those 5 subjects, then so be it, right? But I do have an issue as it presently stands with the number of subjects that students are sitting, because I am wondering as well too, when a student starts off so young, having to be on this pedestal in a sense of being a high achiever, there are implications for this in their future life, right?
Yep.
You've turned out with this 26 subjects or 20 subjects or whatever it is. You are deemed a scholar. Now you go into university and you meet upon challenges. And we've had situations, or even when I was at UE, there was an incident where I think the student was actually from Guyana as well. A student was there and he jumped off the roof because he was underperforming. And what I was told was that he was one of the top students in Guyana at the time. So when he came to UE, it was difficult for him to transition, right? He found himself failing. And I guess because of that, he internalized it to think that he himself was a failure, not necessarily thinking that, that maybe he can catch up if he just maybe slow down, take a break or whatever, take a year's break or whatever. But I am worried. And why it is I'm also worried is that, and this may be even from a personal point of view, is that if a student is skills inclined, I firmly believe that when students leave school, they should be leaving school with a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing of it is that not all students may be skills inclined. I can accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back at even my own life, where I loved needlework, and because I love needlework, I have used those needlework skills to help me with a business, right? So having that training or being exposed to it in school, I walked away with both the academics and the skill. And students need to realize that sometimes the academics alone may not get you through life. Or you can use the academics, but that skill might be what would enable you to have a side hustle, as we call it, or a side hustle that can transition into a business.
But maybe that's the reason why now schools have clubs.
Mhm.
Maybe I think Bishop has a gardening club, and I saw that Bishop specifically.
But Bishops was always in the, if I'm not mistaken, they were the only town school for a number of years who had agriculture on their program,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And I think St. Vincent Grammar School
They
as well.
recently,
They
right,
introduce a
right.
number of different clubs, cycling clubs. I think they have a journalism club. They have a number of different stuff happening. And I think that's something we really need to enforce, that book sense, studying is not everything. You
And
need to learn skills.
and the thing too is that you can have the book sense and you cannot.
You can learn your skills, yeah.
No, but not just that. You can have the book sense. You could come back with your degrees, all these qualifications, etc. But
Mhm.
you're not able to work in an environment with other persons. Sometimes there isn't that transition of knowledge from the formal sector into a practical sense. So that is also another challenge that many employers are seeing happening as well.
Hmm. I don't know if it's currently in place. Do you think that we have the internships as prevalent as they should be to help that transition?
Maybe not necessarily as prevalent as it should be, but I do know, I think technical college allows for students
Yes,
to
for sure.
do
Yeah.
that internship. And there was a recent one that was implemented by the government. The name of that one slips me, but there was one recently where students or persons who were not working, they were allowed to intern at different businesses within SVG.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some instances, student persons were kept on, but those were for persons who were not employed, right? But it also makes you wonder too. Do students even so there's this thing of, unless I'm being paid, I am not going to do an internship, right? There are
Mm-hmm.
some persons who have that opinion where if I come into, or if I'm asking for a job just to get that work experience, because a lot of these job requirements ask for work experience, even if you're fresh out of school, it's like, how are you going to get it, but there are some persons, do they take the initiative to say, well, I want to be, I don't know, whatever, pick a profession. Or I want to work in this particular company. I want to be exposed to learning a particular trade.
Uh-huh.
Do they say, or approach an employer and say, I would like to be able to work for you, not necessarily being paid, but just to gather that work experience. So sometimes it's a situation of personal initiative.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the bigger picture. Yeah, I do not believe in people working for free necessarily, but I do believe that as a young person,
You need experience.
you need that experience. And it's going to be difficult in some instances for persons to get a job without that experience, but they may also have to take that initiative to try to do it on their own and maybe sacrifice not being paid. No, nobody's advocating for free labor.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing of it is that they just never know if based on their performance, they just might be able to get something. They might walk away with something from that employer who values their service, right? But yeah, I wanted the whole question of subjects or subject attainment, number of subjects, um, skills attainment. It's almost. I know that we're trying to make that transition locally now,
Mm-hmm.
where we are exposing persons, and you see it a lot in the adult education centers, where they have a wide range of skills that can be learned. And I believe that it can be taken up by different persons, yeah, as long as you probably apply for it, right? But it's that exposure to skills that can transition to job creation, and it might just transition into self-employment, not necessarily you looking to be employed by somebody else, but whatever skill, whatever training that you have, you can then create employment for yourself.
Yeah, that's something you definitely need to dive into some more. But in the
All
meanwhile,
right, so let
let's
me just take this comment. Someone says, life is challenging and demanding. As an adult, children should be given an opportunity to enjoy their childhood. There should be a balance between academics and living in the real world. So this would have been in relation, or was in relation to my point on the quantity of subjects and maybe not necessarily overburdening students. And, sometimes even maybe from the standpoint of parents as well too, because there are times when I question whether or not are the students who set these significant amounts of subjects, are they doing it for themselves, or is it based on what parents want to see happen? And as I said before, I can totally understand a student doing it to test their own skills and knowledge, but do you need that many subjects? What is the purpose, and what is the basis, or what is the reason for you wanting to do it?
yeah. But let's take a break here and dive into some ads quickly and be right back.
Shop at Lanes, where you come first. For value and quality you can trust. Lanes. For home hardware, fashion and more. The best prices at every store. A warm fancy welcome is waiting for you. At Lanes, your family store for value.
Did you know? Have you used them? Vertis, Medushi, Lilies. These are among the best bathroom tissue products available any place. Excellent quality, larger sheet sizes, and more sheets per roll. Check them out and compare with others. And guess what? Guess what? These are produced right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I tell you, Vinci's have class. Yes, real class as always. Let's keep our standards high. Buy Vertis, Medushi, and Lilies. Made by St. Vincent, Kentucky.
WEFM, the clean, fresh sound.
All right, so we have some commentary here by Trevor relating to the most recent topic there. Said it's about time I learn more about Europe than English students at my school than I did about St. Vincent. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. I'm not sure why I needed to learn this. Then again, the teacher had an English student explaining, the hurricane season in St. Vincent to me. Go figure.
All right, and he made a point before about the dress code. So, right, so you can go ahead.
He said, it is odd how this dress code makes its way into society, i.e., you have to dress a certain way to go to church. I am not sure if you are there for a fashion show or worship God. I also worked in Asia. No one cares as long as you are good at your job. Our CFO has blonde hair now. Does that make him any different? Good point.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. You're live.
Very interesting topic. Very, very interesting. I think this morning is not enough, not sufficient to really drive this point home. But before I go on, with your permission, can I just read this?
Okay, go ahead.
This is an article in 2011 in a magazine that was published in St. Lucia named Jean Moon. Jean Moon is French Creole for young people. Quote, Janika Wilson is of the opinion that the current educational system only prepares students to pass an exam at the end of their 5 years spent in school. According
Agreed.
to Wilson,
Agreed.
any sorry,
Agreed. Go ahead.
according to Wilson, any smart student can bluff their way through the exam and pass with distinction. Unquote. It was a damning indictment on the educational system coming from a student who had scored an amazing 13 distinctions at the 2011 CXC examinations. He told Jen Moon that the students are not tested, nor is the educational system geared to ensure that students are prepared for the job market. The 2011 CXC national champ pointed out that he is a strong advocate of students being allowed to think freely, for it is the only way they can recognize within themselves their strengths and weaknesses. But how can he say this when he went through the same educational system as a student at the St. Mary's College? He pointed out that there was not set formula, except that he worked very hard throughout the 5 years he spent at St. Mary's College. Now, there is no bluff. I read this because what was read earlier, the statements by Education Minister King, who I met through NYC in the 80s, and NYC was strongly advocating in those years for a radical change, a paradigm shift in our education system throughout the island to cater for the job market, which was becoming more and more and more demanding. But we have to deal with a core group of civil servants whose mindset is not yet geared towards a TVET program, whose mindset is not yet geared towards looking at giving students the skills needed to prepare them for the job market. It is too academic bias. I mean, look at students going to primary school and the number of textbooks they carry about. And what is even frightening, and you could ask any of those older folks, at school in the years gone by, there was a lot of emphasis on maths, subtraction, division, multiplication, addition, a lot of emphasis on writing, penmanship, reading, spelling. There was a lot of emphasis on mastering your times table. But today, and the gentleman just read a comment where someone is saying where you had an English student trying to tell you about hurricane and what else in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I mean, the irony, or and I should say the insult, is like you bring in a Chinese to tell you how to prepare roast breadfruit and blackfish. You know, we need to get serious. We need to get serious. The private sector, the public sector cannot employ all school leavers.
Correct.
That is a given. And I will say this publicly. In 2014, just out of my own volition, I prepared a project proposal looking at giving students, training students while at secondary school from Form 2 with extra skill sets for the job market. Because you have students who are not academically inclined like others. After lunch, those students' concentration go way off the radar. So my suggestion was, hey, take the morning period and look at maths as a must, English as a must, a science subject, and a language subject, French, Spanish, whatever. So you give them those 4 key subjects as a basis. And in the afternoon, you put them in classes, be it football, cricket, and not just the athletic side. But there are areas, the backroom areas of sports that people make thousands of dollars a month. Sports psychologists, equipment manager, umpire, a referee, a statistician. And you challenge those kids and they will still learn. Many of the principles being taught in subjects, they will still learn that through sports. But sad to say, although there was support from a number of ministers, including the PM, civil servants pushed against it. I'm saying it publicly. There are civil servants in key positions who pushed against it, not understanding that there must be a paradigm shift now, not tomorrow. Now, if St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and by extension, the OECS countries, can continue to have their citizens seriously challenging for top positions in the various professions around the place, not just in the region. We need to. And I'm very, very happy. I mean, I get goosebumps when you all started this discussion this morning. I get goosebumps. In St. Lucia, there is a bus driver with 8-1 CXC. He worked at a bank for 4 years, and he decided, I'm going to work for myself. He bought a bus.
Right. And that's the thing, too, because... Okay, go ahead. I'll finish after.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No,
right. And that's the thing, because sometimes, you know, I'm making even personal reference here. You know, sometimes you work hard to attain certain educational levels or to get to particular what is seen in society as the correct thing to do. Now, I'm not saying that I have anything against having degree and that sort of thing. But, you know, sometimes your passion lies somewhere else, and you may not necessarily even have to go and study to pursue that particular passion. You know, so I think sometimes, like, I try to tell young persons as much as possible, if let's say at the age of coming out of school, at the age of 20 or whatever, you've identified that you have a particular passion, that you believe that you can make a profession from it, go right ahead and do it. At least make a start. You know, I'm not saying no to not have a degree or whatever, but you tend to find that there are many persons who get these degrees, they become employed by others, and they are just not happy. They're not happy for various reasons, you know, but if you have a passion, the passion is what is going to wake you up every morning to get going.
Yep.
I will add to what you just say, and it will be a surprise. I'm sure you remember former Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Kenny Anthony.
The name, yes,
Oh, you were right.
Mm.
And he's one of the leading constitutional lawyers in the region. His son, Nikos, who I know very well, did not follow in the daughter's footsteps and become a lawyer like their father. He became a chef and a leading chef in Europe. So I'm just saying this to support what you just saying. And we have parents who seek to force their children into their profession, into what made them Mr. This or Mr. That. But it is critical you allow kids to think for themselves, to think freely. It's important. Very early you recognize the talent, the skill, the potential in your kid. And while you want them to get the basics in terms of an education, English, maths, a language subject, a science subject, but you push them so that they could fulfill their own dream and make you and the country proud. But however, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how long it will take for Minister King's dream to become a reality.
I think it's getting there.
I do hope that persons listening to us, I'm not asking them to agree with us, but that they begin to think outside the box towards a broad-based TVET program, not just in the technical skills like plumbing and machinery and that, but we also look at sports, which is the largest industry in the world, so that St. Vincent and the Grenadines and also the other OECS countries can export talent for the benefit of their people. The equipment manager of Barcelona is a St. Lucian. He's been there for over 10 years and he makes thousands of dollars. Why can't we have other kids studying equipment, studying various aspects of sports? So when they graduate from school,
Okay,
they can
caller.
apply
Okay, caller.
for a
Not
top
not
job
to not to
and come
cut you
back.
off, but we're going over the time here, and we're wondering if you could wrap up your point.
No, I'll just actually end it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Have
You
a
you
blessed
you
day.
you had a very rich contribution this morning. Thank you very much. Now, you made a lot of valid points that I wholeheartedly agree with. We need to give the children the opportunity to explore other options outside of
Just the
the
academics,
academic
or
life,
along with the
or
academics.
along
Right.
with the academics. All right, we are now at 9:47. It's time for community dateline.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
All right, so North Leeward farmers in